Right now, as you listen to these words, your heel might be pulling off up to 4 oscillations per second under your desk. To you, it is just an annoying little habit, but to your nervous system, it is a desperate attempt to survive a mortal threat. Your brain is absolutely convinced that a saber-toothed tiger is waiting just around the corner of your office hallway, and it has already started the countdown. Why does our body stage a frantic escape while we are simply checking our emails? And how does this ridiculous leg shaking actively protect our blood vessels? By the way, while your lower limb is busy performing these involuntary movements, go ahead and make one more highly useful micro-movement with your finger. Click that subscribe button and hit the like button. The YouTube algorithms, unlike your office boss, highly encourage this kind of activity, and your brain will get an instant microdose of dopamine. Think back to how often you were told off at school or in the office. Stop bouncing your leg, you are driving me crazy. That rhythmic tapping of your sole against the hardwood or carpet is traditionally viewed as a sign of impatience, bad manners, or extreme anxiety. Well-behaved people do not act like this. Society demands monumental stillness from us. We are expected to sit perfectly upright, hands folded neatly in our laps, embodying the triumph of human intellect over our primal animal nature. But nature, as it turns out, could not care less about our rules of etiquette. Let's run a simple experiment. If your leg is bouncing right now, stop it. Right now, by sheer force of will, pin your sole flat to the floor. Did you manage? Excellent. Congratulations, you have temporarily regained conscious control over your own musculoskeletal system. Now, try to hold this completely static position for at least 5 minutes while continuing to listen, without letting your mind drift back to that limb. Spoiler alert, within just a couple of minutes, your attention will wander and your heel will obediently resume its familiar dance. It will tap out its invisible code, completely ignoring your conscious veto. In the scientific community, this strange twitching goes by the concise term fidgeting. It also covers habits like spinning a pen in your fingers, clicking a ballpoint button, playing with the hem of your clothes, or tapping your fingers on the keyboard. For a long time, these micro-movements were looked down upon. Old-school psychotherapists searched for repressed aggression or childhood trauma. Teachers saw it as laziness and an inability to focus. Parents dragged their children to neurologists, suspecting serious developmental disorders. But what if they were all wrong? What if this is not a bug in our operating system, but a critically important patch, without which our body simply cannot function in the modern world? When you sit in an office chair that promises perfect ergonomics and lumbar support, you feel safe. You are protected by walls, a contract, a warm cup of coffee, and a health insurance policy. But to your ancient limbic system, which has not changed for hundreds of thousands of years, this entire setup looks incredibly suspicious. Imagine that you are a 21st century office clerk. You have an ergonomic keyboard, unlimited tea in the kitchen, and a gym membership you do not use. But right now, your boss is raising his voice at you during an all-hands meeting. Your neocortex, the pinnacle of evolutionary design, understands that you just need to keep quiet, smile politely, and nod. But your ancient limbic system is screaming at the top of its lungs. We are being attacked by the alpha of a hostile tribe. We are going to die. It has already pumped so much adrenaline into your system that you could fuel a compact car with it. Your muscles turn to lead, your blood vessels constrict, preparing to minimize blood loss from predator bites. And you just continue to adjust your glasses and calmly say, "Yes, sir, I will rework that slide by this evening." Your inner primate clearly hates this, but who cares about his opinion? You keep sitting there with a polite smile while a full-scale military mobilization unfolds inside you. Your body pumps a chemical cocktail designed to turn you into a perfect survival machine. Adrenaline expands your bronchi so you can take in more oxygen. Cortisol urgently mobilizes glucose reserves, giving your muscles instant access to fuel. Blood is diverted away from your stomach and skin, rushing toward the large muscle groups in your legs and arms. Everything is set for a massive physical burst, either to run as fast as you can or to sink your teeth into your enemy's throat. But you do not run. You keep sitting. You are trapped in your own body like a tight cage. You cannot smash the monitor or run out of the conference room screaming toward the nearest forest. Social conventions hold you in a death grip. You keep breathing evenly, taking notes, and nodding. Where does all this massive energy stored in your muscle fibers go? Where do those liters of adrenaline and tons of unspent glucose go? They cannot simply evaporate without a trace. A locked-in chemical explosion demands an immediate exit, and if you do not give it one voluntarily, your body will find it on its own. Your brain's motor cortex finds itself in a paradoxical situation. The green light has been given, but the brakes are slammed to the floor. In this exact moment, the system finds a brilliant engineering bypass that saves you from physical self-destruction. An invisible piston starts working under your desk. Your leg turns into a pressure relief valve. But how exactly is this valve designed? And why does the brain choose our lower limbs for this task, making us look so ridiculous to those around us? Imagine a modern supercar. 8 cylinders, twin turbochargers, 700 horsepower under the hood. And now, this masterpiece of engineering is locked down by the handbrake, shifted into first gear, and the gas pedal is floored. The engine screams at its limit, thick smoke pours from the tires, the clutch burns, but the car does not move an inch. This is precisely what happens to your body when you try to sit perfectly still in the middle of a high-stress workday. Every time you experience psychological pressure, an ancient chain reaction is triggered. The hypothalamus signals the pituitary gland, which activates the adrenal glands, dumping an avalanche of hormones into your bloodstream. Adrenaline forces your heart to beat at double speed, constricts peripheral blood vessels, and redirects oxygen-rich blood to your major skeletal muscles. Cortisol instantly spikes your blood sugar levels, supplying you with rapid energy. This is a flawless system, perfected over millions of years of evolution. It saved our ancestors from predators and helped them run down prey. The only problem is that evolution did not anticipate that we would one day invent offices, meetings, and passive-aggressive comments in team chats. In the wild, this hormonal explosion was resolved through instant physical action. You either ran or you fought. In both cases, your muscles actively contracted, burning up glucose and clearing stress hormones from your system. After the struggle, adrenaline levels dropped, blood vessels dilated, and the body returned to a state of equilibrium. The process was complete. Today, the situation is absurd. You receive an email from a client demanding a complete rewrite. Or, your manager announces budget cuts. Your stress levels skyrocket. Your body obediently fuels your internal engine with high-octane fuel. But you keep sitting on a plastic chair. You cannot tackle the client or run away from the office. No physical action takes place. But adrenaline cannot simply vanish. It circulates through your cardiovascular system, keeping your muscles in a state of constant, tense readiness. If this tension is not released, your body starts to break itself down. Chronic muscle tension leads to spasms, poor posture, tension headaches, and a constant, low-lying sense of anxiety. This is where the unconscious part of your mind steps in. While your prefrontal cortex is busy drafting a polite reply to that infuriating email, the basal ganglia, the ancient brain structures responsible for automatic movements, look for a way to save the system from overheating. They find a brilliant compromise. If you cannot run for real, you must simulate running. The basal ganglia begin sending rhythmic, low-amplitude signals to the muscles of your lower limbs. These impulses force the fibers to contract and relax at a rate of 2 to 5 times per second. This is a localized running simulator, running right under your desk. You do not move an inch in space, but your muscles are performing mechanical work. They consume excess glucose, burn off microdoses of adrenaline, and lower the overall tension in your nervous system. Essentially, bouncing your leg is a safety valve through which your brain vents excess pressure. You might think it is just a bad habit, but in reality, your body is desperately trying to keep you from losing your mind to a chemical imbalance. The most amazing part is that this process happens completely autonomously. You can be locked in an intense debate with a colleague, writing code, or reading a book while your leg lives its own, remarkably rhythmic life. The brain consciously prioritizes intellectual work, delegating the physical rescue of your body to automatic subcortical structures. But why the legs? Why don't we shake our heads, wave our arms, or twitch our shoulders in the same rhythm? What secret anatomical trick is hidden in our calves, allowing us to perform these oscillatory movements for hours on end without getting tired at all? The answer lies in the unique anatomical design of our calf. Beneath the massive gastrocnemius muscle, the one we are used to seeing in anatomy textbooks, lies its quiet but far more important counterpart, the soleus muscle. In Latin, it is called musculus soleus. This muscle is unique. It consists almost entirely of slow-twitch, type 1 muscle fibers. These fibers possess incredible endurance. They use oxygen to continuously generate energy and can work for hours without the slightest sign of fatigue. It is the soleus muscle that is responsible for keeping us standing upright without falling over. When you shake your leg, you are working this exact muscle. For the soleus, this rhythmic vibration is a light warm-up that it can perform indefinitely without building up lactic acid or requiring rest. But why would the body expend the resources of even this ultra-enduring muscle while we are simply sitting? The reason is that the soleus muscle serves as a key element of the so-called muscle pump. When you stand or walk, your blood vessels function in an ideal mode. Gravity pulls blood down toward your feet, but the contractions of your calf muscles squeeze your veins, literally pumping blood back up to your heart, defying gravity. Inside the veins are specialized valves that prevent blood from flowing backward. Physiologists call this mechanism the peripheral heart. But when you sit down, this heart stops. You sit on a chair, pinching the blood vessels behind your knees and around your pelvis. Your muscles are relaxed. Gravity pulls blood down, and it begins to pool in your lower limbs. The velocity of blood flow drops, venous pressure rises, and the inner lining of your blood vessels, the endothelium, starts to experience massive stress. Deprived of normal blood flow, the endothelium loses its ability to produce nitric oxide, which is vital for dilating blood vessels and preventing clots. Just 3 hours of static sitting leads to pronounced vascular dysfunction. This is the first step toward atherosclerosis, varicose veins, and deep vein thrombosis. This is precisely the problem that involuntary leg shaking solves. In 2016, a group of scientists from the University of Missouri conducted an elegant and alarming experiment. They took 11 healthy young men and sat them at desks for 3 hours. There was one catch. One leg of each participant had to remain absolutely motionless for the entire duration. With the other leg, the participants had to periodically fidget, lifting the heel and tapping the toe against the floor at a frequency of about 250 times per minute. Using ultrasound, the researchers regularly measured blood flow velocity and the diameter of the popliteal artery in both legs. The results were staggering. In the leg that remained static, blood flow in the femoral artery dropped by more than 70%. The blood vessel's ability to dilate worsened by nearly half. These are the vascular health markers of an elderly person. But in the leg that the participants were shaking, blood flow did not just stay steady, it actually increased significantly. The markers of endothelial health remained completely normal. Do you realize what this means? Shaking your leg under the table is not a nervous tic. It is an automatic life support system for your body. While your mind is drifting, your brain is quite literally saving your blood vessels from a slow death by firing up the calf's muscle pump. It is a simple, elegant, and entirely free way to prevent blood pooling and protect yourself from cardiovascular disasters. We now have a clear answer to our main question. Leg shaking burns off excess stress hormones and protects our blood vessels from the destructive pooling caused by sitting. The mystery is solved. But just when you think you have figured it all out, the story is only beginning. We are ready to go deeper into the rabbit hole. What if this rhythmic vibration under the desk protects not just our blood vessels, but our minds? What if, without this constant physical metronome, we would literally lose the ability to concentrate and make complex decisions? Welcome to the engine room of our mind. To understand how a bouncing leg is connected to your productivity, we have to meet the master conductor of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. This area of the cortex, located right behind your forehead, is responsible for everything that makes us civilized human beings. It is your internal executive. It handles planning, willpower, long-term goals, complex analysis, and, most importantly, the ability to hold your focus on a single task while ignoring external distractions. It is the prefrontal cortex that forces you to review a dry spreadsheet instead of checking your social media feed for the 100th time. But this top manager has a major weakness. To work effectively, it requires a very specific baseline level of stimulation. This level is regulated by two primary neurotransmitters, dopamine and norepinephrine. If there is too little of them, the prefrontal cortex literally falls asleep. You lose your ability to focus, your thoughts scatter, and any monotonous task feels like absolute torture. Imagine an old, temperamental diesel generator. If you do not keep it running at a certain idle speed, it will start to sputter, shake, and eventually stall out. Your brain works in a similar way. When you are forced to sit through a boring lecture or fill out repetitive tables for hours, the flow of new information dries up. Your dopamine levels plummet. Your internal generator begins to stall. The brain cannot let this happen. It is vital for it to raise the alertness of the prefrontal cortex, and it finds a brilliant bypass route through the physical body. Every micro movement you make, whether it is spinning a pen, tapping a pencil, or that rhythmic leg shaking, sends a powerful stream of electrical signals up your ascending neural pathways. These signals travel up the spinal cord directly to the somatosensory cortex and the thalamus, which acts as the brain's main switchboard. From there, the stimulation is relayed to the prefrontal cortex. This process is very similar to a sleepy driver who starts singing loudly, rolls down the window to let in cold air, or pinches their earlobe. They are artificially creating physical stimuli to keep their brain from shutting down. Bouncing your leg is the exact same kind of internal pinch. Our body uses the soleus muscle as a portable dopamine stimulator. The rhythmic contractions of the calf muscles send a continuous stream of micro-impulses to the brain. This background stimulation revs up our stalling generator, bringing dopamine and norepinephrine levels back up to their necessary working values. You are not just shaking your leg, you are literally overclocking your brain's processor, using your own limb as an external controller. This is especially evident in people with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Their baseline dopamine production is naturally impaired, making it incredibly difficult for their prefrontal cortex to hold focus. It used to be thought that children with ADHD squirmed in their chairs and bounced their legs because they were distracted. But modern research has flipped this concept on its head. Dr. Julie Schweitzer of the Mind Institute at the University of California, Davis, conducted a series of cognitive tests on children diagnosed with ADHD. She discovered that when these children were allowed to move freely, squirm, and shake their legs while performing difficult cognitive tasks, their accuracy and speed increased dramatically. The movement did not prevent them from concentrating. The movement was the only way they could get their brains to fire up in the first place. Think back to the fidget spinner craze a few years ago. Millions of people bought these plastic bearings, believing they had found a revolutionary tool for stress relief. But the truth is, evolution gave us a far more powerful, effective, and completely free tool millions of years ago. Your legs under the table are the ultimate natural fidget spinner. But what happens when this flawless biological self-regulation mechanism suddenly spins out of control? What if a harmless, useful habit of shaking your leg turns into an unstoppable neurological hell that robs a person of sleep, breaks their mind, and leaves them crying out in despair in the middle of the night? This invisible boundary between a useful physiological life hack and a genuine neurological nightmare lies in the deep structures of our midbrain. Welcome to the world of restless leg syndrome, also known in medicine as Willis-Ekbom disease. Imagine going to bed after an exhausting day at work. Your body is depleted, your eyes are heavy, and you close them in anticipation of long-awaited sleep. And in that exact moment, deep within your calves, something wakes up. This is not a classic pain that can be dulled with a pill. It is a sensation that is incredibly difficult to describe in words. It feels as though hundreds of hungry insects are crawling under your skin, deep inside your muscle fibers and bones. They tickle, burn, and pull your muscles from the inside out. The only way to stop this torture is to move your legs. You bend them, stretch them, get up, and take a few steps across the dark room. The unpleasant sensation instantly vanishes. You return to bed with relief. But the moment you stay still for just a few seconds, the midnight itch returns with a vengeance. You are condemned to spend your nights in endless, exhausting motion. Sleep becomes an unattainable luxury, and life turns into a relentless battle against your own limbs. This agonizing condition slowly destroys the mind. Deprived of deep sleep phases, a person quickly spirals into clinical depression, their cognitive functions fade, and daily life turns into a gray fog. Willis-Ekbom disease robs a person of their most basic right, the right to stillness and peace. At the core of this pathology lies a deep systemic failure. In our midbrain, there is a tiny structure called the substantia nigra. It is responsible for producing the dopamine that regulates all of our motor activity. In Willis-Ekbom disease, this system breaks down. The brain experiences a localized deficiency of iron and dopamine, causing sensory and motor signals to cross and tangle, turning natural rest into physical torment. This is a serious medical condition that requires complex drug therapy, not just a habit that can be broken by willpower alone. Normal leg bouncing under the table, which we have been discussing this entire time, is the polar opposite of this nightmare. It happens during the day, not at night. It is easily stopped by a simple conscious decision and does not cause you physical suffering. But most importantly, it works for you, not against you. It is the last outpost of our biological defense, a reminder of who we truly are. We built megacities of glass and concrete, created artificial intelligence, learned to transmit gigabytes of data in fractions of a second, and packed the entire world into the screens of our smartphones. We forced ourselves to believe that we became purely intellectual beings, for whom a desk, an ergonomic chair, and a power outlet are all that is needed to live. But our biology did not read our digital transformation manifestos. To our bodies, we are still hunters and gatherers, designed to run 30 kilometers a day under the scorching savanna sun, tracking prey and escaping predators. Our cardiovascular system, our muscles, and our brains operate under laws written hundreds of thousands of years ago. And when we try to lock this powerful biological machine into the confines of a sedentary workday, the system starts to defend itself. Bouncing your leg is a quiet, unconscious rebellion of your body. It is a desperate protest against the static cage of the modern world. Your brain dumps excess stress, protects your veins from deadly clots, and forcibly wakes up your sleeping mind, forcing your calf muscles to execute a micro-escape. Every time your heel starts tapping its frantic rhythm under the desk, remember, this is not a sign of weakness or nervousness. It is a sign that your inner beast is still alive. It refuses to surrender to the onslaught of office routine. We can talk all we want about our greatness and technological progress, but deep down, we remain frightened primates desperately trying to escape our ergonomic chairs every single second. And while you sit here, your leg continues its endless invisible run, an escape from the world we built, but a world in which our body never learned to simply sit still.